Welcome CSC200 class online for spring 2020. I just want to mention this is VS Code, and I have a couple older videos of installing VS Code for both Mac and Windows that I'll just display next. So I just wanted to give you a little intro here because this is the newest version and the extensions looks a little bit different than you'll see on the version when I do the install, but it's only a difference from spring to fall, so there shouldn't be too much different. Coming up, you're going to see an install for both Windows and for Mac, so I just want to point that out. And now we're going to download VS Code. We're going to be using Visual Studio Code for our local coding, so I'll just search VS Code. And I'll download for Windows, and there it's downloading. 48 megabytes, and I'm going to run the executable file, and it brings up a wizard, and I shouldn't have to do much here other than accept the agreement, and I'll just put it in its default location, and I'll finish, and it'll launch Visual Studio Code. Now again, this isn't Visual Studio, this is Visual Studio Code, which is more of a code editor. It can be used for web development. It can also be used with Python and some other programming languages with some extensions installed. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and install VS Code because we're going to be using that more for code. So I'm going to go to I'll just search here for VS Code. And I'm going to download it for Mac, the newest version. So here's my Visual Studio Code app. It's in downloads right now. And I'm just going to drag it into my applications. And from my applications, I'm also going to scroll down and I'm going to drag it into my dock just so I have it available. I'll put it down here. I might move it around, but I'll put it in here right now. And I'll launch it. I'll just show you a quick preview of Visual Studio Code. You'll have release notes, and they update it quite a bit. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. And it's not the full Visual Studio. It's Visual Studio Code, so it can be used for web development and Python as well. There's extensions that you have to install to make it do the things that we need it to do. So let me close up release notes. Let me close up the welcome. I'll go over more Visual Studio Code later. So that was installing VS Code for both Windows and Mac. And one thing just to point out, you shouldn't have to install any extensions right now. You can install Python if you're going to be taking the Python class or taking Programming 1 and using Python, but I see a PHP IntelliSense. I have SQL tools on here. We shouldn't need any of that, so you should be okay. And I will have another video which reviews setting up a workspace and getting started once we get to that point with PHP. So that was just installing VS Code.